Hello everyone and welcome to my The Young and the Restless official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Jack Abbott could have a few tricks up his sleeve. Is Jack on the verge of making a shocking move that'll rock his family and bring some backlash? YNR's preview video for the week of March 2nd 6 shows a crisis breaking out for the Abbott clan. Billy Abbott can be seen delivering news to Diane Jenkins Abbott and Kyle Abbott about Jack's kidnapping. According to Billy in the promo, Victor Newman is demanding that he give Chancellor back by the end of the day or else they'll never see Jack again. However, we have to consider the possibility that Jack might be in on the scheme. After all, Victor claims Lily Winters is going along with her fake abduction to help get through to Kane Ashby. Lily and the twins aren't in actual danger, but Kane's working frantically to get Newman Enterprises back in Victor's hands anyway. What if Jack has cooked up a similar plot with Nikki Newman since he's upset over Billy snatching Chancellor away from her? Jack has been enjoying Victor's downfall, but he doesn't like the fact that Billy stole Chancellor with Phyllis Summers' assistance. We could certainly buy the idea of Jack being willing to dupe Billy and try to put Nikki back in the CEO seat. Of course, that means working with Victor too, but 2026 spoilers already pointed to Jack and Victor being forced to work together for a good cause. Wanting Nikki to have Chancellor back is the one thing Victor and Jack can agree on right now. If Billy caves in and surrenders Chancellor in exchange for Jack's safe return, he may ultimately find out it was a scam. Can you imagine Billy's fury if Jack manipulates him into signing Chancellor back over to Nikki? Diane wouldn't be pleased either, since she still has some old wounds from the last time Jack went to extremes for Nikki's sake. Jack relapsed on pills to scare Nikki into rehab, so Diane has never really gotten over that. Now Diane may end up terrified over what Victor might do to Jack. You can bet Diane will be outraged if she finds out Jack tricked his own family just to help Nikki regain Chancellor control. Diane is sick and tired of Jack constantly putting Nikki first in situations like this, so Jack's actions could cause another huge fight. Even Kyle might lash out at Jack for scaring them and betraying Billy because of his bond with Nikki. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Jack could rile everyone up in a big way if he's complicit in this kidnapping, so stay tuned to see if it's real or a trick. On the surface, everything looks calm in Genoa City, but beneath that quiet tension, a storm is building inside the Abbott mansion. The latest preview for The Young and the Restless teases something explosive, something that could shatter trust, rip open old wounds, and send shockwaves through one of the most powerful families in town. It begins with fear. Billy Abbott rushes in, his face pale, his voice tight with urgency. Diane Jenkins Abbott and Kyle Abbott turn toward him, sensing something is wrong before he even speaks. And then the words land like a bombshell. Jack Abbott has been kidnapped. The room freezes. You can almost hear the air being sucked out of their lungs. Diane's world tilts. Kyle's expression hardens, disbelief flashing into dread. Jack, the anchor of their family, the man who always stands firm, is suddenly gone. And then comes the ultimatum. According to Billy, Victor Newman is demanding the unthinkable. If Billy doesn't hand Chancellor back by the end of the day, they'll never see Jack again. It's the kind of threat only Victor would make. Cold, calculated, devastating. But here's where things get complicated. Because what if this isn't what it seems? What if Jack Abbott isn't just a victim in this crisis, but a willing participant? Victor has already claimed that Lily Winters agreed to go along with a fake abduction, a staged crisis designed to force Kane Ashby's hand. Lily and the twins were never in real danger, yet Kane is scrambling, desperate to restore Newman Enterprises to Victor's control. A manipulation wrapped in fear, a lie built to provoke action. So what if Jack has crafted a similar strategy? Think about it. Jack has made no secret of his frustration lately. Yes, he's taken some satisfaction in Victor's setbacks. But there's one thing that has never sat right with him. Billy's decision to snatch Chancellor away from Nikki Newman, especially with Phyllis Summers by his side. Jack may enjoy seeing Victor fall, but he doesn't enjoy seeing Nikki stripped of her power. And that's where things start to blur. What if Jack and Nikki quietly aligned? What if this kidnapping is less of a crime and more of a calculated maneuver? A pressure tactic designed to force Billy's hand and restore Nikki to the CEO seat at Chancellor? It sounds outrageous, but is it really? After all, 2026 spoilers have already hinted that Jack and Victor may be forced to work together for a greater cause. Strange alliances are nothing new in Genoa City, and right now there's one rare point of agreement between those longtime rivals. They both want Nikki back in control of Chancellor. If Billy panics, if he caves under the weight of fear and signs the company back over to Nikki in exchange for Jack's safe return, the fallout could be catastrophic. Because imagine the moment the truth comes out. Imagine Billy discovering that the man he rushed to save manipulated him. Billy's fury wouldn't just burn, it would explode. He's fought too hard, taken too many risks, and defied too many enemies to hold on to Chancellor. To be tricked into surrendering it, to be emotionally blackmailed by his own brother, that betrayal would cut deeper than any business rivalry ever could. And Diane, for her, this wouldn't just be about corporate control. It would reopen an old scar she has never truly healed. Years ago, Jack went to horrifying extremes for Nikki's sake. He relapsed on pills deliberately to scare Nikki into getting help. He risked his own sobriety, his own stability, all in the name of protecting her. Diane has never fully recovered from watching him spiral like that, never fully forgiven the way he put Nikki first. So now, as Diane fears what Victor might do to Jack, her terror is real. The possibility of Victor harming her husband is enough to unravel her completely. But if she learns that Jack orchestrated this, that he frightened his own family, dragged them through emotional hell, all to help Nikki reclaim power, the devastation would turn to rage. Because Diane is exhausted from competing with Nikki's shadow, exhausted from watching Jack prioritize her again and again. This wouldn't just be another argument, it could be a breaking point. Even Kyle might struggle to understand. Jack has always preached loyalty, integrity, family unity. If he manipulated Billy, if he betrayed his own son and wife for Nikki's sake, that moral high ground collapses. Kyle could lash out, he could feel humiliated, used, played, and suddenly this kidnapping wouldn't just be a business ploy. It would be a family fracture, a war inside the Abbott home. The emotional stakes couldn't be higher. On one side, Nikki, a woman Jack has protected time and again. On the other, Diane, the wife who refuses to stand second place in her own marriage. And caught in the middle, Billy, whose impulsive decision to seize Chancellor may have triggered this entire chain reaction. If this abduction is real, then Victor's ruthlessness has reached terrifying new heights. But if it's a trick, if Jack is complicit, then the backlash could be even worse. Because nothing devastates a family faster than betrayal from within. The preview promises chaos. It promises confrontation. It promises revelations that will leave no relationship untouched. And as the week of March 2nd 6 unfolds on The Young and the Restless, one question will hang over every scene. Is Jack Abbott a victim? Or is he the mastermind behind the storm that's about to tear his family apart? Either way, when the truth finally surfaces, Genoa City may never look the same again. And as the tension tightens its grip on the Abbott family, the clock begins to tick louder. Hours. That's all Billy has. The ultimatum echoes in his mind. Surrender Chancellor by the end of the day or lose Jack forever. It's not just a business demand, it's psychological warfare. Billy paces, wrestling with the weight of it all. Chancellor isn't just a company, it's his redemption story. It's proof that he can build something powerful without living in Jack's shadow or falling into self-destruction. He took it with Phyllis Summers's help. Yes, bold, controversial, maybe even ruthless, but he believed in what he was doing. Now Victor Newman has turned that belief into a weapon. But the deeper Billy thinks, the more something doesn't sit right. Victor is dangerous, calculating, capable of terrifying moves, but kidnapping Jack Abbott, that's not just a power play, that's an act of war. And Victor rarely makes a move without layers and leverage. Meanwhile, inside the Abbott house, Diane's fear transforms into something heavier, suspicion. She's terrified for Jack, yes, The thought of Victor harming him makes her stomach twist. But beneath that fear is a haunting whisper she can't silence. What if Jack is choosing Nikki again? She remembers the pills, the relapse, the calculated self-destruction Jack once used to force Nikki into rehab. He risked everything, his health, his sobriety, his marriage, just to save her. Diane never forgot the sight of him spiraling, never forgot the way it felt to come second. So now, as she watches Billy scramble and Kyle seethe, a terrifying possibility forms in her mind. What if Jack isn't a hostage but a strategist? What if this is another grand, reckless gesture in Nikki's name? Across town, Nikki Newman carries her own storm behind carefully controlled eyes. She has lost Chancellor, the company that represents her strength, her identity beyond being Mrs. Victor Newman. Watching Billy take it with Phyllis at his side no less was humiliating. Victor's pride was wounded, but Nikki's was shattered. And if there is even the slightest chance that Jack is maneuvering behind the scenes to restore her power, it would be dangerously consistent with their complicated history. Jack has always believed in Nikki, sometimes more than he believes in himself. Now imagine the scenario. Billy caves. He signs Chancellor back over to Nikki, his hands shaking but his resolve cracking under the threat against his brother's life. The deal is done, the company restored, and then Jack walks back in. Alive, unharmed, calm, the silence in that room would be suffocating. Billy's relief would last exactly one heartbeat before realization ignites into fury. Because if this was a setup, if Jack manipulated his fear, exploited his loyalty, and forced his hand, that isn't strategy. That's betrayal. Billy has made countless mistakes, but loyalty to his family has always been his anchor. To discover that his own brother weaponized that loyalty, it would cut deeper than any boardroom loss. And Diane, her heartbreak would be volcanic. She would see it as confirmation of her worst fear, that no matter how many vows Jack makes, no matter how many promises he whispers, Nikki will always hold a piece of him that she cannot compete with. Another explosive fight could be inevitable. Diane demanding to know why, Jack insisting it was necessary. Diane asking the question that's haunted her for years. Why does it always have to be her? Kyle wouldn't stay silent either. He has grown into a man who expects honesty, especially from his father. If Jack knowingly terrified his own family, if he dragged them into emotional chaos for the sake of Nikki's corporate comeback, Kyle could feel humiliated, even disillusioned. Because what does that say about Jack's priorities? What does it say about family? And then there's Victor. If this is a collaboration, if Victor and Jack secretly aligned for this single purpose, it would mark a stunning shift in their decades-long rivalry. These two titans rarely stand on the same side of anything. But for Nikki, for her power, her dignity, her rightful place as Chancellor, they might. Strange alliances have formed in Genoa City before, and 2026 spoilers have already hinted that Jack and Victor could be forced to work together for a greater cause. Perhaps this is just the beginning, yet the risk is enormous. Because once the truth comes out whether this kidnapping was real or staged, trust will be the true casualty. If Victor truly abducted Jack, then the war between Newman and Abbott escalates to terrifying levels. But if Jack willingly stepped into the role of victim to manipulate the outcome, then the real explosion won't happen in a corporate office. It will happen at home, in the Abbott living room, in a marriage already strained by ghosts of the past, in a brotherhood that has survived scandals, betrayals, and heartbreak, but may not survive this. As the week of March 2nd 6 unfolds, every conversation will feel loaded. Every glance will carry suspicion. Every alliance will feel fragile. And the question won't just be, is Jack safe? It will be, who can the Abbotts trust when the truth finally comes out? Because whether this kidnapping is real or the most elaborate bluff Genoa City has seen in years, the aftermath promises shockwaves that won't fade quietly. Someone will lose power, someone will lose trust, and someone may lose far more than they bargained for. In Genoa City, the most dangerous moves aren't always made in the dark. Sometimes they're made by the people you love the most. And just when it feels like the tension can't stretch any tighter, it does. The hours slip by with agonizing slowness. Billy stares at the paperwork that could change everything. Chancellor Industries, the empire he fought to control, the symbol of his independence, sits in black and white before him. One signature and it's gone. Returned to Nikki, restored to the Newmans. He tells himself it's just business. But it isn't. This is pride. This is identity. This is proof that he's not the reckless screw-up everyone once believed him to be. And yet, Jack. Every memory of his brother flashes through his mind. The arguments, the loyalty, the times Jack pulled him out of the fire and the times he pushed him into it. Their relationship has never been simple, but it's always been real. If there's even a chance Jack's life is on the line, how can Billy gamble with that? Across town, Diane feels the silence closing in. The house feels too big, too empty. She moves from room to room, touching things that still carry Jack's presence. His books, his jacket, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air. Fear claws at her chest, but beneath that fear is anger waiting to ignite. Because the more she thinks about it, the more the pieces start to align in a way she hates. Jack has always had a savior complex when it comes to Nikki. Always believed he's the one who understands her, the one who can protect her from Victor, from herself, from the world. And Diane has always been the one left trying to compete with that history. If this is another sacrifice in Nikki's name, if Jack willingly put his family through this terror to restore her power, it won't just hurt. It will break something. Meanwhile, at the Newman Ranch, Nikki stands at the window, her posture composed but her thoughts racing. Losing Chancellor was more than a corporate defeat. It was a humiliation that cut deep. Watching Billy seize it with Phyllis Summers smirking at his side felt like being dismissed, underestimated. Victor is furious, of course. His pride demands retaliation, but Nikki's motivation is different. She wants her legacy back. And if Jack has stepped in to help make that happen, it would be consistent with the complicated, undeniable bond they've shared for decades. A bond that has survived marriages, divorces, betrayals, and reconciliations. A bond Diane has never trusted. As the deadline looms, Victor's shadow stretches long over everything. Whether this kidnapping is real or staged, his presence dominates the narrative. He knows how to push people to the edge, how to apply pressure until they crack. But what if this time the pressure was mutual? What if Jack approached Victor first? What if two lifelong rivals stood in a quiet room and made a cold, strategic agreement just this once for Nikki's sake? It would be a gamble of enormous proportions, because if Billy signs those papers and later discovers he was manipulated, the damage won't be limited to corporate loss. It will be deeply, painfully personal. Imagine the moment of revelation. Jack walks through the door, uninjured, steady, composed. Relief floods the room. Diane rushes forward. Kyle exhales. Billy feels his knees nearly give out. And then the truth surfaces. A glance between Jack and Victor that lasts half a second too long. A detail that doesn't add up. A confession, or worse, a quiet confirmation. The relief would curdle instantly into outrage. Billy's face would darken, betrayal flashing in his eyes. "You used me," he might say, the words trembling not from fear but from fury. Diane wouldn't even need to shout. The devastation in her voice would be enough. "You chose her again, and Kyle," he would look at his father differently, not as the moral compass of the family, but as a man capable of calculated emotional manipulation. The Abbott house would become a battlefield, because trust, once fractured, doesn't mend easily. Jack might argue that it was necessary, that Nikki deserved Chancellor, that Billy's takeover, aided by Phyllis, was reckless and unjust. He might insist this was the only way to correct it without a prolonged war. But intentions don't erase impact, fear leaves scars. And Diane is tired of being collateral damage in Jack's loyalty to Nikki. Even if Jack believes he acted for a greater good, the cost could be enormous. Another explosive fight between him and Diane could erupt, reopening old wounds neither of them truly healed. The memory of his pill relapse, that terrifying gamble to scare Nikki into rehab, would resurface like a ghost in the room. Because once again, Jack would have risked everything for her. As for Billy, this could push him into dangerous territory. Humiliation has never sat well with him. Being outplayed by his own brother could trigger the kind of impulsive retaliation that reshapes alliances and reignites old feuds. And Victor, if this was a collaboration, he may respect Jack's willingness to make hard choices. But Victor never forgets leverage. A secret shared between rivals is still a weapon waiting to be used. If the kidnapping was real, the war escalates. If it was fake, the family implodes. Either way, the fallout is unavoidable. As the week of March 2nd 6 unfolds, every glance, every conversation, every confrontation will feel like it's balancing on the edge of a knife. The Abbotts may survive corporate battles, they may even survive Victor Newman's schemes. But can they survive betrayal from within? Because sometimes the most shocking move isn't the kidnapping. It's the choice to let the people you love believe it was real. And if Jack Abbott has indeed orchestrated this storm, the aftermath won't just rock his family. It could redefine it forever.